The harbor was overflowing with people, with luggage, dreams, and goodbyes crashing like waves. Women clung to their husbands, children cried, and tearful eyes followed ships bound for faraway lands. And there stood the New Horizon, a magnificent vessel gleaming under the fading sun, like a promise of another life. Amid the crowd, Yassine walked with hesitant steps, a young Arab man from Alexandria. His face carried the fatigue of hard days, yet his black eyes held the quiet fire of an artist who refused to surrender. In his hand, a small wooden case filled with sketchbooks and worn-out colors, and in his heart, one hope: to find in America a beginning he truly deserved. On the other side of the pier stood Kathy, saying farewell to her family. She wore an elegant white gown and carried a leather case for her violin. Her eyes were blue like the sea, beautiful, but full of a sadness that no smile could hide. She knew she was leaving not for a dream of her own, but for a fate arranged by her father, a marriage to a man 20 years older. As the ship departed, the sea stretched endlessly beneath a crimson sky. Yassine sat on the deck, painting the horizon, his hair tousled by the wind and the hum of the engines blending with the murmur of the waves. Then he heard it, a soft, aching melody drifting through the night air. A violin, playing a tune that sounded like farewell. He looked up and saw her, sitting alone by the railing, eyes closed, fingers trembling gently across the strings. He didn't know who she was, yet he couldn't look away. Each note she played felt like a brushstroke on the canvas of his soul. He pulled out a fresh sheet of paper and began to draw her. Not her face, but the feeling she carried. Her sorrow, her quiet loneliness that mirrored his own. When she finished, he approached her shyly. "Your music," he said softly, "is like the sea. It starts as a whisper and pulls you somewhere you've never been." She turned to him, surprised, a faint smile on her lips. "Do you love the sea?" He replied, "I live from it, and sometimes I run to it." She raised her eyebrow. "And do you paint it?" He handed her the drawing. "I was painting the sea until I saw you. Then I started painting it through you." She looked at the sketch and smiled. "Your lines feel like longing, as if you're afraid the moment will slip away." They laughed, and in that laughter, something gentle and new was born. The next day they met again, by chance, in the ship's corridor. She held her violin, he carried his drawings. "Do you play every day?" he asked. "Only when my heart feels trapped," she replied. "Why are you traveling then?" "To begin a life I didn't choose," she said softly. He smiled. "And I'm traveling to begin a life I did choose, though I'm not sure it will accept me." She smiled faintly. "Maybe the sea brought us together because we're both running from the same direction." From that night on, they were no longer strangers. She played for him each evening under the moonlight, and he painted her as the waves whispered below. When the wind tangled her hair, he brushed it gently aside. When she missed the note, they laughed, and even their laughter became music. One quiet night, they sat alone on the deck. The sea was calm, the stars scattered above, the ship humming softly as if asleep. Kathy began to play a new melody, one filled with warmth and tenderness. Yassine leaned closer and said, "That song doesn't sound like you." She blushed. "Maybe it sounds like you." He smiled, closing the space between them until their breaths met. "Kathy," he whispered, "if the sea stopped tonight, I'd still see you in the waves." She looked at him deeply. "And if life stopped?" I'd still hear you in the silence. No more words, just a quiet embrace beneath the stars. Near midnight, the ship shuddered violently. Screams, chaos, metal grinding against ice. Water surged through the corridors. Kathy clutched Yassine's arm, terrified. "What's happening?" He said, "We hit an iceberg," trying to calm her. "We need to get to the deck." They ran through the freezing air, slipping between panicked passengers. She held her violin tight, trembling. He said, "Don't be afraid. I'm here." She cried, "I told you, the sea takes everything." He looked into her eyes, "Not what's born of the soul." At the edge of the ship, officers shouted for the women and children to board the lifeboats. Yassine turned to her. "You have to go." She shook her head, tears streaming. "I won't leave you. I won't start the life they chose for me and abandon the life I chose myself." He cupped her face in his hands. "Kathy, you must live and play again. Your salvation is there." She took his hand, pressed it to her heart, and whispered, "Salvation is here, with you." Suddenly, a naval officer grabbed her by the arm, dragging her toward the lifeboat. "Yassine!" she screamed. He tried to follow, but water surged up from below. "Play for me!" he shouted through the chaos. "Play one last time." In the lifeboat, Kathy raised her violin, tears blurring her vision. Her trembling hands drew the bow across the strings, a broken, desperate melody as the sea swallowed the ship. Through the storm, she saw him one last time, standing at the edge, water rising to his chest, smiling through his tears. Then he was gone, as if the ocean had claimed the dream itself. 10 years later, Kathy sat on a quiet beach, the same violin resting against her shoulder. Beside her, a faded painting, one Yassine had drawn long ago. She whispered, "I wish to see you even for a moment. I'm married. I had a daughter, but no one ever filled my heart the way you did." One day, her husband took her to an art gallery. As she walked through the exhibits, she froze. There, a painting of a young woman playing a violin on a ship's deck. Tears welled in her eyes. A man's voice came from behind her. "It's my favorite piece," he said gently. She turned, and the world went silent. "Yassine?" she whispered. He smiled softly. "I didn't drown. The sea brought me back to you." She stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. "I searched for you everywhere," he said. "You were the melody I could never finish." "I thought you were gone," she sobbed. "I left the sea," he said, "but never you." He looked at her daughter and smiled. "She looks just like you." Kathy lowered her gaze. "But my heart, it's still out there, on the waves." He nodded sadly. "Then I'll wait for you, in the next life, where no ocean divides us." They shared one last look, honest, tender, eternal. And when she walked away, the melody of her violin lingered in the air. A love that never sank, echoing forever on the waves.